A huge thank you to everyone who's continued to support my work on Talk Beliefs. I now have a Patreon campaign where all contributions go towards the cost of travel, audio and video equipment, and fees to religious events that I fully intend to continue to infiltrate. Thank you.
Sean, thank you very much for returning for the second part of this interview. We're going to look at Mormon missionaries and how to talk to them, how to challenge them from your perspective as an ex-Mormon who went on a 2-year mission. So first of all, can you give us a brief recap of your mission and how your research into the history of the LDS Church led to your deconversion?
Sure. So just briefly, I was born and raised in the Mormon religion, and I worked as a voluntary missionary in Manchester, England for 2 years, in 2007 to 2009. And later on, maybe 6-7 years after leaving my mission, I went through a faith transition, which involved a period of intense research into LDS Mormon history, into the epistemological issues about how the LDS Church makes truth claims, and into a variety of other subjects. And basically, to cut a very long story short, over 1,000 hours of personal research, I basically came out not believing anymore. And so I think this gives me a unique perspective at this time to offer ideas as to how you can speak with or deal with LDS missionaries, given that I was one and experienced that as a fully believing person, and then came out and now disbelieve. So I can give you basically from end to end the full description of what it's like and what kinds of things make us think.
That's going to be so cool. So as you said, for someone who was a missionary, who was really convinced of this Mormon message in his heart and mind, what would you say makes your average missionary tick? How do they view their mission? And indeed, how do they view the world that they're preaching to?
Well, the first thing to realize, and I think this is not just for Mormons, but for many religious people, is that they sincerely believe what they claim to believe. It's not a facade or a pretense. So Mormon missionaries really do believe that the message they are out to deliver to mankind is the salvation of mankind, and that only through this message can mankind truly be saved. So most missionaries sincerely and literally believe in the tenets of Mormonism. There are some missionaries who struggle with their beliefs, and that can actually make it very difficult to be a missionary. Faith sort of carries one through a mission, and when someone has a sort of lack of faith in those beliefs, it can make it incredibly difficult and have a lot of cognitive dissonance. Missionaries work full-time without being paid, so they don't live in the lap of luxury. Often they live in modest apartments in different countries. It's a tough life to be a missionary. It's a full-time thing. You don't do anything else, and there's a strict rule book about what you can and cannot do, which is interesting and detailed, but I won't really go into that at this time. And another thing to realize is that missionaries do quite often suffer from depression, I think especially in the beginning of their missions and when they're brand new. And similarly to that thought, brand new missionaries are not as molded as more mature missionaries are. And I'll speak a bit about that when we go into strategies with dealing with them.
Okay, so after serving a mission yourself and then leaving the LDS Church, how do you feel about missionaries now?
Well, that's a great question. I have mixed feelings about missionaries right now. My primary feeling about missionaries is empathy. I really feel sorry for them, because I think that if you look into the LDS doctrinal belief system, I believe it's demonstrably false. So I think there's to put it in words that I've used before, I think they're trapped in a whirlpool of memes. They're stuck in this kind of system that is bigger and more complex than I think they understand. And I'm not upset or angry with missionaries. I know lots of people are, because they, in a sense, disturb the peace by knocking on people's doors and so on. But I mainly just feel sorry for them, And I think the ideas they represent are simply false. And so I view this more, to give a sort of reference to a lot of Sam Harris's type of discussions, I view this more as a war of ideas and less so as, a war against actual people. I see beliefs as something that someone has, not something they are. And so when I say missionaries, I feel like they've embraced ideas, often inadvertently. I mean, most of them are born into it. So I think they are victims of those ideas. And I think that the LDS Church organization in some ways can be considered abusive towards them, but not in overt ways, not like being physically assaulted, of course. So personally, I actually shy away from directly speaking with missionaries. I think at this stage of my life, even though I feel I've healed significantly from my journey, I still feel it's just a little bit too emotional for me to speak with missionaries. But that doesn't mean I don't have some, what I believe are very good ideas as to different ways you could approach a conversation with a missionary.
Okay, so if a person is approached by Mormon missionaries, and just say you've had, I don't know, a really rotten day and you don't want to deal with any of that, so what's the best way to, how can I put it, get rid of them?
Well, sure. I mean, missionaries come with varying degrees of pushiness, depending on their own personality, depending on their mission president, which is their ecclesiastical leader that presides over their local area, depending on the culture of their mission, the companion or the person, the teammate that they're working with. So I think for the most part, if you just say the words, I mean, the words I heard most on my mission were not interested. And if you just say not interested, I think 95% of missionaries will respect that and simply leave you alone. And they'll just bounce off and keep speaking with other people. I do remember one time, actually, after my mission, I went tracting, which is the name, knocking on doors, with some missionaries here in Sydney where I live. And we once knocked on a man's door and he just said another 2 words to us. He said, Fort Knox. And I think I understood exactly what he meant by this. What was funny is that one of the missionaries that I was with, I'm South African, one of the missionaries I was with was from the US and had never heard of what Fort Knox was. So I didn't really understand the reference. But you could try not interested, or you want something a bit more sophisticated, just express to them that you are Fort Knox. They will not penetrate through you.
Okay. So what if you feel you want to challenge Mormon missionaries, Sean? Maybe have a little bit of fun with them. What could you do?
Okay, well, firstly, I think a decision that each individual should make is, at what angle do you want to challenge them? Do you want to be a bit more direct, a bit more, even antagonistic, if you wish? Or do you want to be a bit more oblique and sort of kind and gentle? And in my opinion, I think both approaches have merit. And I think that I guess if you want to have an impact on their belief or help them to look into these kinds of things that I believe they should, then both approaches are actually valid and important. I think along that spectrum of how direct you approach them, I think all of those approaches are beneficial to them. So I think first let's start off with the oblique approach, which is what are the more gentle ways that you can approach a missionary and in a sense in the language that we are using to benefit them. And I think that the first one would be, and I want to refer again, we spoke briefly in our last interview about Stephen Hassan, the expert on cults.
That's right.
I want to briefly mention his book, Combating Cult Mind Control, where he speaks about speaking of pre-cult identity. So for a missionary, often they have been born in the LDS Church, which means they have no pre-cult identity. Again, see our previous video for terminology on whether or not Mormonism is a cult. But one thing that you can do is just speak with them about who they are. Try to help them identify their personality, their character, their interests. Many of those things are buried when you're a missionary, as you're recreated in the image of Mormonism, in the image of a missionary. So you could say to them, I'm not interested in your message, but I am interested in you. Or you could just directly ask them without that preface. You could say, what are your hobbies? What hobbies do you have? Where are you from? Do you have a boyfriend or girlfriend waiting for you? That's often a very touchy subject for missionaries. What do you think of current events? Pokemon Go just came out. What impact has that had on you? Ask them, what are their personal interests aside from Mormonism? What do they want to study when they get back home after their missions? And do they like the country that they're in? If you're in England speaking with a mission, what do you think of England? Welcome to England. Do you like it here? Those kinds of gentle conversations can be really helpful, because missionaries often face a lot of just straightforward rejection. And being kind to them can help them realize that the world, or the painting of the world that they may have been painted, the world is not all that bad. There are a lot of nice people out there who are genuine and gentle. And that's one thing that was important for me to realize as a missionary.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, I mean, I encounter a lot of Mormon missionaries myself, and I do sort of pick up that they are, a little bit lonely and a little bit, they sort of, just want to talk to people occasionally, But as you said, sometimes you do have to just challenge them directly. I mean, what about these direct challenges? What's the benefits of doing that?
Okay, before we speak about the direct ones, I have one more suggestion for indirect. That is, missionaries often have certain allocated hours that they can give to community service. So when I was a missionary, I used to spend time, and I think for me personally, if I reflect on my missionary time, the most significant time that I spent was doing service, was actually helping people in ways that are not the way missionaries perceive helping them being saved, but helping them in a physical sense. So you could invite them to come to your home and do gardening. Really, they probably wouldn't turn that offer down. And for me, I met and made friends with some wonderful people when I was just doing their gardening as a missionary. And those relationships are dear and special to me. And I'm aware of another missionary who I worked with. He met a wonderful Buddhist man who said, I'm not interested in your message, but if you're willing to, I would love to work in my garden with you together. And he just loved gardening. And that kind of thing can be really touching and really uniting. You can build real friendships around that with missionaries. And for the most part, when they do service like that, they won't bring up their proselytizing efforts, again, depending on the culture of the mission zone in which they work. So right. There's another example. I mean, you could invite them to paint an old cemetery or pick up trash with you or do gardening and so on. And this can really touch them and help to build friendships with them.
But you still think that perhaps challenging them directly on, say, doctrine and things is a good idea?
Yes, I do. Yes. And so I guess I'll speak about that for a few minutes. Firstly, I'll relay a quick anecdote from the beginning of my mission just to illustrate. And not all missionaries go on a mission and come from a place of, you could say, perfect innocence, but do realize that they are often 18 to 21-year-old kids, essentially. They've just finished high school. Now, I have met some missionaries who are very well educated, even at that age, and quite mature. But just to illustrate, when I was a missionary, in my first area, I was walking around speaking with people one day, and I spoke with this old guy. He had this really good-looking beard, and he approached me, and he just asked me this simple question. He said, "Have you read Darwin?" Mm-hmm. And I said, "Who's Darwin?" And I think that to this day, I've never forgotten that question. And so just the simple, direct challenge, and I'll never meet this man again. I don't even remember him. I'll never see him again. But the fact that he asked me that question made a difference to me, because it revealed to me later on when I found out who Darwin was. I'm like, how could I not know who Darwin was? Of course, he looked very much like Darwin. I wonder if he had some other implication with that. But yes, so that's just to illustrate, I think there is some benefit in direct challenges. So here are some questions. Firstly, I want to point out that missionaries have a strict code of what kinds of content they can and cannot consume in terms of reading. So there's no point or almost no point in printing out something and giving it to them and saying, hey, I think you should read this information about Joseph Smith. People did that to me on my mission, and I just threw it away because they're not allowed to consume that kind of content. So it's part of the rule book. So there's probably little or no value. You might find the occasional missionary who would be willing to read through that and it would challenge them, but most often that would not be the case. So my suggestion is to ask them thoughtful but not antagonistic questions about LDS doctrine and practices. So I've put these into two categories. The first one are social issues, which are a bit softer, and the second are doctrinal issues, which are far more direct. So I'm just going to give a sample of some of the types of questions you could ask in both categories, starting off with social issues. The first question you could ask them is, why does your church spend so much money on temples or buildings or missionaries to spread the gospel that they want to spread, but doesn't spend as much money on charity, for example? The percentage of revenue, as far as I understand, the LDS Church does not disclose its financials, but people have extrapolated this. The percentage of revenue that the LDS Church spends on charity is quite low compared to the amount they spend on other things directly related to their work. So, and if you want a little tool, I know LDS scriptures very well. So there's in the Book of Mormon, which is a book that they use, there is a scripture, 2 Nephi 28:13, which speaks about this kind of behavior. So you could say, look, I'm a bit confused because your own scriptures speak about not building fine sanctuaries and treating the poor in a bad way, but the LDS Church itself does exactly that. The second question in the area of social issues, which is just a very straightforward, simple question, is to ask them about why Mormonism is so small. I mean, you could ask them if Mormonism is so important to God, if it's so important for him to work out the salvation of mankind through this belief system, then why let only 0.02% of the world's population be involved in it? There are 15 million Mormons in the world, that's on record, and probably about a third of those are actually active or practicing. So it's really just a matter of, if it's so important and if it's such a big deal for God, then why are there so few people who adhere to it? It's a very simple question. Another question you could ask them is about if they know about Joseph Smith's polygamy, which means he married multiple women, and or his polyandry, which is not only did he marry multiple women, but he married other people's wives. In fact, in one case, or I think a few cases, he even sent a person on a mission and then married their wife while that person was away on their mission. You might be able to tie that up with the girlfriend question because one of the questions earlier is about girlfriends. So how would you feel? You could ask these two in tandem. You could say, how would you feel if your best friend married your girlfriend while you're on a mission? Question A. Question B, did you know that Joseph Smith did just that? That is an interesting approach to that.
And even though they might deny the thing, they might go away and research it, huh?
Correct, yes. Because these are the kinds of things that have been buried through the whitewashing and correlation of the LDS Church over 100 years. So these are things that kids grow up in the LDS Church, they don't know it at all. Like someone can be 50 years old in the LDS Church and never know that Joseph Smith did that, being a member their whole life. So it's definitely something you can point out. And invite them to research it. Tell them you're not just making it up. Go look it up. So finally, this is one trick that you can play, which I've thought of. I've never played it. If someone does this, please tell me. I would love to know the reaction that comes to this. So just for a bit of history, and again, the more knowledgeable one is about LDS doctrine and issues, the better one can negotiate with missionaries and sort of ask these interesting questions. And one of them is, and I challenge someone to try this out. Take the name Fanny Alger, F-A-N-N-Y-A-L-G-E-R. Missionaries have pass-along cards, those little cards that they give you that has, do you want your family to be together forever, that kind of thing. Just write down the name Fanny Alger on the pass-along card and your phone number. And say to them, if you go find out who this person is, then I'm happy to have a chat with you. Of course, this is sort of a bait. You're saying you can teach me, but first I want you to know who this person is. Now, Fanny Alger was Joseph Smith's first plural wife, and she was 14 at the time they got married. So if any missionary, and the only place they could find out this kind of information, because they're not allowed to Google or anything, would be their mission president, which is the local ecclesiastical leader of the mission. So what you could say is, I want you to go to your mission president and find out who Fanny Alger is. And once you've done that, have a chat with me. And that is just a very, very quick and direct way to expose someone to very fundamental issues with LDS Church. Just a single name and say, you look this up and we'll talk.
So, Sean, what about questions concerning doctrine, specifically contradictions within Mormon doctrine? Would you bring that up?
Absolutely. And I think this is an area where the more knowledge you have about such contradictions, the better equipped you'll be to approach such questions. So firstly, I want to do a quick plug. There are hundreds of contradictions in LDS doctrine, and a lot of these are sort of buried underneath the standard narrative. But there's a document, if you are really interested in having a lot of knowledge in this area, there's a document called the CES letter. If you just Google CES letter, there's a document written by an ex-Mormon wherein he writes his questions and concerns about LDS truth claims. So this document has literally, I think, almost 100 questions that are detailed and very difficult to answer if you're a believer. And there is so much detail in there, we don't have time, obviously, to go through all of it. But some of the things I'll mention are from there. You could pick any random question out there, and you could pick a different one on a different day if they keep coming back to your door. But I'll speak about some specific doctrinal concerns. Again, referring back to my statement, you can't give them something for them to take away and read. So really all you have is your conversation right then and there. They won't go back and research anything you ask, unless maybe the Fanny Alger, if you ask that very small, specific question. So let's go through a couple of things that you could do in real time with a missionary. The first is, I found this very interesting scriptural contradiction in LDS scripture. The LDS Church has two scriptures outside of the Bible, two sets of scriptures. One is the Book of Mormon, and one is the Doctrine and Covenants. They have others, but those are two big ones. And in the Book of Mormon, there's a scripture, Jacob 2:24, which says, "Behold, David and Solomon truly had many wives and concubines. Which thing was abominable before me, saith the Lord?" So David and Solomon having concubines and wives, bad. God doesn't like it. Then if you go to Doctrine and Covenants 132:39, it says, "David's wives and concubines were given unto him of me by the hand of Nathan my servant, and others of the prophets who had the keys of his power." So this is one of the more beautiful direct contradictions. And I've read apologetics about this specific question, and it is really, really complicated mental gymnastics. But definitely that's something that you could point out, is these two specific scriptures. And you could ask them, hey, because the missionary most often would be unprepared for that kind of question. You ask them, hey, what about these two? And often missionaries carry their scriptures around with them. So you could just ask them, hey, I want you to open up to this one. I want you to open up to this one. What about that? And that would be a very difficult, it's a very direct challenge, but I think it would be interesting and would make them think. So aside from that direct contradiction that you could point out, you could also tell them that you want to invite them over to your house to study Doctrine and Covenants section 132. Now, modern Mormons are monogamous, meaning they don't have multiple wives, but it's of LDS doctrine that polygamy is not only permissible, but important. And it's still in the formal canon of scripture. So if you sit together with them and read Doctrine and Covenants 132, just read the whole chapter. It's pretty long, but there's a lot of stuff in there about women specifically Joseph Smith's first wife, Emma, being destroyed if she doesn't follow this commandment of polygamy. So these are interesting things that you can just point out. And as you know, with many religions, the whole milk before meat thing applies. So most often they will introduce the nice, gentle things first. But if you just skip ahead straight to the difficult stuff, then it can kind of shake them up and make them think about that. So another one, and I think this is the most important, I've kept the best for last. Part of the fundamental sort of approach to truth claims of the LDS Church is that one has to pray to God to know whether or not the Book of Mormon is true. And if one receives a witness from the Holy Ghost, then that's a testimony that it is true. Now, there's abundant evidence that there are other religions who do the same thing, and or other religions who may not explicitly claim that, but their adherents pray to God to know if the religion is true, and they receive affirmative answers. So it's an interesting challenge, and it's something that is unreconcilable in Mormon doctrine because there's such a reliance on this spiritual witness. So I would, the most simple, most straightforward argument you can raise is, or you could even say it yourself if you are religious and you feel this way, you could say, I've prayed about the Book of Mormon and God told me that's not true. And there is literally no reconciliation of that answer. It's a very direct approach. So again, those are just a sample of some of the issues. If you want to see some more, I'd suggest go to the CES letter if you want a list, if you want a bit more ammunition, but we don't have time to go over all of those today.
Okay, Sean, that is a really fascinating insight into the mind of a Mormon missionary and how we can go about challenging them and making them think. So thanks again. Thank you so much for talking with us, and we wish you all the best in your life out of Mormonism and as an activist. Thank you.
Take care.
Careful with that thing coming down.
Wind's picking up. Okay, so it's starting to pick up as it comes around there. Be careful.
This is big water. Now all of a sudden the wind's picking up and it's absolutely crazy.
Sails all the way up. It needs to be down. Hey!
The wind was blowing so hard, we were filling the boat up with water. We're gonna send this boat over, lose our equipment, and maybe drown.
Right now, 20 miles off the eastern coast of Africa, these 4 explorers are sailing into the unknown. They are headed deep into the interior of Tanzania.
We'll be traveling 970 miles through an extraordinary range of environments, and a lot of them extremely hostile.
Africa's got unbelievable numbers of dangers. Swamps, deserts. But the most dangerous thing we'll face are the snakes. There are 29 deadly poisonous snakes in Tanzania.
Give me that med kit quick, guys.
Using only a compass and basic maps, they will attempt to recapture one of the greatest adventures in world history.
In the 19th century, explorers were like rock stars.
Dr. David Livingstone is probably the greatest explorer of all time.
Livingstone was one of the best known people in the world.
He was a man who was making the world a better place. He decided to make it his life's mission to stamp out slavery. So he was a hero of his time, and then he disappeared.
Enter Henry Morton Stanley, an American journalist sent by the New York Herald to find Britain's lost hero.
He knew adventure, but he wasn't an explorer. He had never set foot in Africa.
He wanted the scoop, this great mystery. Dead or alive, he would find out what happened to Dr. David Livingstone.
Now, 4 modern-day explorers are on a quest to relive the most grueling parts of Stanley's perilous journey to find Dr. Livingstone. Navigator Pasquale Scaturo,
I've rafted the entire length of the Nile. I've led the first blind guy up Mount Everest. What draws me to exploration is really complex. It's so deeply embedded in my soul that it's like a drug. I'm here to find out if what Stanley wrote was fact or fiction.
Wildlife expert, Mireya Mayer.
It's the ultimate challenge. I mean, this is the true test of what we're made of, because these are essentially, in my world, heroes. We now, as modern-day explorers, need to look within ourselves and say, are we that tough?
Survivalist, Benedict Allen.
I'm someone who's come back from the dead half a dozen times, and on my very first expedition, I even had to eat my dog to survive. On this expedition, I'll be trying to understand Stanley, this extraordinary survivor. He really was the ultimate explorer.
And journalist Kevin Seitz.
I think my role in this expedition is ultimately to hopefully resurrect the spirit of Stanley in some ways. A lot of what I read about Stanley was how nervous he was. He didn't know what to expect. In a lot of ways, I feel the same way. You know, more than likely, Africa will conquer me.
The adventure begins here, off the eastern coast of Tanzania, on the exotic island of Zanzibar, with its clear, beautiful water and dark past. Once the Mecca of the Arab slave trade, the island was also the jumping-off point for all the great African explorers. All 4 explorers meet here for the first time, at what was once the British consulate. This is the story behind one of the most infamous lines of exploration history. Dr. Livingston, I presume.
Hello, I'm Benedict.
Mireya Mayer.
Traveling into the interior together.
Yes, we are. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, good to meet you. What a
and
place.
what a place to meet.
What a place. Smell the history. Absolutely. For us, as modern-day explorers, to walk into that building which smelt of so much history, the launch pad for these great explorers as they headed off into the unknown, that was so exciting. I suppose it's something like a Catholic going to visit the Vatican and seeing the Pope. It's always great to be in Africa. We have another explorer. Hello. I'm Benedict.
I'm Pasquale.
Look at your hat. Stanley's hat. Brilliant.
There he is.
Hey.
The last one.
Fellow explorers, I presume. How are you? I'm Kevin Seitz.
I'm Pasquale.
My pleasure. Nice to meet you. Yeah.
Hi, Mireya. Nice to meet you.
Benedict.
Nice to meet you, Benedict.
What do you, are you a...
I'm a journalist.
You are Stanley, then...
I don't know if I would be as bold as to say that, you know. I was so nervous going in there. These guys are very accomplished. I just hope I can offer something of value before this is all over.
I lead a lot of expeditions, you know, mountaineering, boating, rafting expeditions, the K2 Everest.
Do you see yourself as the natural leader for us, then?
Oh, it's up to you guys. I guess.
We'll have to see, I think we're going to have to see how it evolves and what works for us all.
I think.
Pasquale is used to having things his way, and I'm the sort of person who's not very good at obeying orders. So if he starts ordering me around, you know, it's going to be a bit of a problem. But if he can lead the expedition and get us safely there, I'll be fine with that.
So what we have is, let's start here. This is his work map.
The great objective for us is to understand Stanley and his world, and that's what we must be edging towards all the time.
What he took 9 months to do, we're going to do in 30 days.
Yeah.
It's going to be a trek.
It is.
We're going to be moving.
Yeah.
We're going to be moving.
Like Stanley, we're chasing the rainy season, and that could very well kill an expedition more than anything. More than anything. Our goal here is to do an expedition in the spirit of Stanley, to retrace his expedition from Zanzibar all the way to Ujiji, Tanganyika. We're going to do the same amount of distance, but we're going to try to do it in 30 days, which means we're going to have to skip those big portions that now are fairly populated. We want to feel and see and smell and hear some of the most difficult challenges that Stanley did.
The big concern is water.
Right.
To me, that is our big thing. Heat exhaustion.
Yeah,
and,
dehydration.
My biggest concern right now, I think, is the snake issue. The snake thing concerns me.
29 species of venomous snake.
My snake bite kit is simple. I've got a hatchet and a sharp knife. Because a lot of times it's the only way you'll survive. We're going to sail the boat ourselves. You know that. Is anybody here a sailor?
No. But I don't think we should think about that too much. I think we should get cracking with our planning, because
Time is short.
And I think we have to get going to get supplies.
We don't have the 9 months that Stanley had. We have to get food, equipment, and gear, source a boat, get on the water, get across the channel to Bagamoyo in incredibly small amount of time.
All right, let's go.
All right. Yeah, I think up here's the port. I think around the corner here. Juana?
Jumbo. We need a boat to rent to go to Bagamoyo. 4 people? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4. Okay, let's look at this boat.
It's Stanley, Livingston. They sailed exactly these same boats.
It looks pretty solid.
Yeah,
It looks good.
It does. 140 years ago, they got in these dhows, and they put their equipment in it, and they sailed over to Bagamoyo, exactly like we're doing. It's great.
What do you reckon, Maria? There was Pasquale mentioning in his first sentence, actually, that he got up, helped someone up to the top of Everest and K2.
You mean the way he came across when he said it?
Well, it's, you know, you're someone who studies primates, and there was a primate with a lot of display behaviour, you know.
I think you guys are going to butt heads a lot. That's what I think.
Okay, so there we have a market. And then what, 1 kilo of garlic? Oh, sorry. So rice.
Definitely rice, coffee. Total of 9 kilos of that.
It's still not very clear when we're going to resupply.
We're trying to decide how much food to bring with us because we're trying not to overpack. At the same time, we're not sure when we can resupply.
There's so many unknowns, and that
so
is
many unknowns.
It's mind-boggling. I think 30 days. I mean, Stanley had huge pressures against him. For him, it was about secrecy. He didn't want the world to realise he was after this great story, the scoop of a lifetime, to find Livingston. So he was shopping at night and so on.
We are pressed for time.
For us, huge pressures as well, but for us, it's about time.
Because I want everybody on this side of the car.
Yeah. The boat's here. Take your personal gear first and put it on the boat, secure, and then, okay? And then we'll come back and download the group here, okay?
All right.
Right here, right here. Okay.
Say goodbye to Zanzibar, guys.
Stanley did this in 1871. I'm sure it was the same as us. You don't know what to expect over in Bagamoyo. You just don't know. Okay, let's turn it and go. Ready? Yeah. 1, 2, Tatu. Okay, come on. Mojambili, Tatu. Mojambili, Tatu. The best case scenario is things are smooth, but we just don't know. Come on. Forward.
There we were on the Dhow at the start of our great adventure, and it was just one of those extraordinary moments, seeing Zanzibar behind us and then ahead of us, Africa, the great continent. That, of course, reminded us of all the explorers and pioneers who've been there in the past, in that same position, launching out across the water. Wind's picking up. It's starting to pick up as it comes around there.
We got wind. We got crosswind.
Then suddenly it all happened. Sails started flapping and there was fear in the eyes of the captain. And so he began ordering us around.
Sails all the way up. It needs to be down. We're trying to get this huge mast with this 500-pound canvas sail rolled down to the deck. And it's absolutely crazy. We're not even in Bagamoyo yet. We're going to send this boat over, lose our equipment, maybe drown.
It had been pretty smooth sailing, actually. All of a sudden, the winds picked up in such a way that it was making it quite dangerous. None of us had any experience sailing.
Up your head.
We're at least 100 meters from shore. Wind's probably blowing 30 miles an hour, and we're grounded. Water's about 4 feet deep. Either we carry our stuff in or we try to find a small dinghy, a small boat to float our stuff in.
So, do you want to just test the water?
Yeah, go on.
I think we established a depot on the beach.
Okay, got it.
Yep.
What do you need me to carry? Anything else?
No, you're good. Go.
Bagamoyo was the launching point for expeditions into the heart of Africa. Bagamoyo means crushed heart in Swahili because that would be the last place the slaves saw their homeland before coming to Zanzibar and the slave markets.
More stuff over there?
Yeah, you know what? Okay. There's like 3 bags left.
Got it.
Let's hope we can bring it all together and understand Henry Morton Stanley.
As you all have seen, I've got the first edition of Stanley's How I Found Livingstone. What I'd like to do, if you all agree, is have us sign this and write something in the front at this point as we begin our journey. And then when we finish our journey, we'll write something at the back of the book.
Here's to discovery, adventure, and exploration. May we sit around many campfires together for life.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
You like that? All right.
Okay, we've got coffee and tea over here. We got plenty, I think. You like your tea strong?
Tea, yeah, just like it should be. Strong and English. Great, it's a good cup of tea. Oh. Wasn't quite the drink I was expecting. What do you think? Strategy with the porters? Do you think we let Pasquale sort them out?
Oh, we have a choice?
Having led 30 years of expeditions around the world, I know absolutely one of the most important things is a head porter. And he is going to be so important for us to be able to communicate with, help us with porters and the logistics of the expedition. Julius?
Hey.
We sourced a guy named Julius. He's a Tanzanian. He has lots of experience.
Zorshana, how are you?
Good. Are you good?
Good. John, how are you?
Maria, nice to meet you.
We've also sourced 2 Maasai warriors that will help us in the defense of our camps and hopefully keep the expedition safe.
Hopefully you will improve your Swahili.
Hopefully.
Good.
Maasai, they know how to live with animals, dangerous animals. And that's why I am with explorers, maybe to help them for dangerous animal or some place like dangerous place.
What a great guy, huh?
I love this too.
Yeah.
They're beautiful.
The Maasai are a proud people. Every man is expected to kill a lion with a spear. So these are the young warriors that we chose to accompany us on this expedition because they are so formidable.
So, obviously, welcome to our team.
Yeah. Hey, Julius, do you think that we can put together a team that can carry some of this heavy stuff that for 30 days?
Yeah, it's a challenge, but we are ready for that. In fact, that's why you have me. As a head porter, my responsibility is to lead porters. Porters are the people who were carrying stuff. In an expedition like this, you need to have food, water, and even camping equipment. So we had to carry all this stuff.
Well, there's a ton of porters there.
Attitude is a big, important part of this.
I think we're going to see attitude once they get that bag in front of them and have to pick it up. We had a bag really weighing the amount that we were proposing to them they would be carrying, and had each of them put it on their backs and walk.
With it first.
Wow, spring in his step. And his English is good.
Adam?
When you're in such a remote part of the world, in Tanzania, it is completely unrealistic for us to come out here and be able to go almost 1,000 miles without employing porters. We have to count that in, but somebody can take that now. Empty, no?
Yeah. No, we got to carry water.
We could treat water tonight, too.
But are we going to carry the water on our backs? Water is absolutely the thing of life out here. I mean, it's my concern that we need at least 60 liters of water. That's about 5 liters per person, which is a good amount of water.
Those are empty right now.
Yeah.
So we're crossing rivers.
Empty till we get to our destination.
But what do we do then after our destination? Do we never travel with water? I try to tell Kevin, let's fill up some water bottles. No way he was going to fill up water bottles. Water. We need either carry fresh water or...
Yeah, I'd like to treat it. I mean, because
sooner or later...
Yeah, agreed, but we can treat it.
There's no question Kevin jumps in on things. He's definitely a decision maker. Does he make the right decisions? My first opinion, no.
We're like 3 hours behind already, and we just need to communicate.
An expedition is not a democracy.
All right, guys. Let's just look at these real quickly here.
So now we're heading north up the coast.
Yeah.
For a lot of the expedition, Stanley took the traditional old Arab slave route into the interior, but he also would deviate from 10 to 150 miles from that route in order to keep his mission absolutely secret. And for us, it's going to be the same as we head west.
Through the swamps.
5, 9.5 miles.
I'm just going to walk through the heat of the day, but
Yeah.
apart from that, it's fine.
Our expedition starting in Bagamoyo. Our goal is to go 10 miles through the Ruba swamps, and we're going all the way to Ujiji.
Ted, you going to be at the back, Kevin? Yeah. Thanks.
Okay, guys. Let's go this way, huh? I think this is too difficult. Let's go this way, back this way. No, let's go back this way. Can you get through there? All right, let's get through here and go back. Keep going inland a little bit. We're in the reed bushes right now. I got a compass. I can't see my way, so I just want to make sure that we're going somewhere due north. Stanley didn't have a GPS. He did have compasses. A compass is a circle, a band, and the circle is broken up into 360 degrees. And each degree represents a unique direction of the compass.
Right there's where we need to go. So we were heading northwest, which is I thought where we were going because I can't hear the water, so we're off direction already. Okay, huh?
Using the compass through a forest is absolutely the most difficult there is. Why? Because I can't see anything. I can't see distant landmarks. In that situation, what I do is I go almost tree to tree.
Where is Pasquale leading us? I noticed they went that way, and then...
Let's see feet this way then. Sure, yeah. There's some this way too. We lost the expedition already.
You better pick it up a bit, but
Yeah.
almost immediately, the swamps of Bagamoyo turned out to be very, very confusing places, like a labyrinth of vegetation.
Go this way. Just follow this berm.
I was wondering about Pasquale's navigation skills, whether they're up to this or not. We seem to be all over the place.
I just don't want to keep going in the swamps, huh?
I think we've lost them. I hear Pasquale. Pasquale, give me a...
Let's show you where we're at here, huh? Back on 290 now.
How do you know we're not there, for example?
We could very well be. So I thought we would just keep heading this way.
So there we are, day one of the expedition, just a few miles into the journey, and we've already lost our way.
You know what we're missing, don't you?
And suddenly I realized we'd lost Kevin.
Where is Kevin?
Did he get behind us somehow? Did he?
Yeah, he was behind us, but he wasn't that far behind us.
He's going to naturally head north, I think.
Because Pasquale's just off and running. Kevin's gone. This is the last guy you want lost out here, the one with the least experience. He's going to panic, he's going to overreact, and that is the last thing that you can do in a situation like that.
We've also now realized we've lost Kevin.
Lost Kevin.
Yeah, we really have lost Kevin.
Really have.
Wow.
Did he get behind us somehow? Did he?
In mangrove this thick, we should be moving very slowly, waiting for the last team member.
So there's Masai with him, there's...
At least one porter and a Maasai with him.
You don't see him in there at all? Nothing back there? Okay. I may just give a whistle or go in there, send the Maasai in there.
He's going to naturally head north, I think.
Yeah.
Let's stay in the same
We were heading
direction.
in that direction.
Can you hear me?
We should
Yeah.
try and get closer to Kevin if he is heading that way.
I hear him.
Looks like we found our missing explorer.
Perfect coordination. This way. All right. You get into that mangrove swamp and you guys can't even see back at us.
No, not at all.
We're going to have to be much more disciplined and keep tighter together and work as a sort of platoon, an army outfit.
The river, I think, is here, huh? I think river's over here.
You want to give them 5 minutes here?
Yeah, let's give it 5 minutes.
5 minutes break.
5 minutes, huh? This is not the river. The river is actually on the other side. I bet you 10 to 1 when the tide finishes going out that this may even be empty, huh?
It'll be a muddy, nasty
muddy
creek.
little nasty little creek.
I think that whether, even if we don't get to this target, I think we've got to just make camp in daylight today.
Yeah.
We've just got to get back control.
Yeah.
Did we get them water?
No.
Yes, they're asking for water.
I know.
We have, our canteens are empty.
Yeah.
I'm really frustrated because I was vetoed on the water situation 15 times in Bagamoyo.
Now, is there a
To the
place
southwest.
anywhere along there we can get them water?
No, we have no water.
Yeah.
We took off without water. It was I was completely opposed to it. We got there, we had a water disaster. I was pissed off because I told Kevin, we need to fill up water.
This is like a critically dangerous situation. We've got 16, 20 people out here without water.
Yeah, there's pump. Yeah, so that's probably a well.
Should I take Ramadan and just see if there's water there? Okay.
Water is the ultimate concern, you know, and you think, right, but you're surrounded by water, but the problem is that water isn't usable to us. The water comes inland from the ocean, so it's salt water. We can't drink that. And that's what Stanley faced during his expeditions.
Well, hopefully we're going to be okay here. Hopefully Kevin should get water back to us soon. Kevin! Woohoo! The man of the moment.
Yummy.
It's delicious.
Water's got to be first. I'm not leaving this camp without water.
We learned on the first day, so yeah, we got to be really careful not to do that one again.
Let's kind of, make a pledge on this. We don't go without 60 liters, right? Here's a safety margin. I just don't want to end up in that situation again, okay?
We should have had water when we left. But people convinced that it was going to be clear water rivers along the way. And there are no clear water rivers in Africa, hardly. We weren't too big a hurry to get out.
Oh my gosh. There's a spitting cobra.
This is so exciting. Camp is right over here. I think it's the most beautiful of the cobras. It's certainly one of the most dangerous of the cobras. They can spit with phenomenal precision. It lifts its body 2/3 of the way up before aiming right at the eyes. At night, these guys are looking for a warm place to sleep, and our tarps are very comfortable places for them to burrow into. You guys, right over there's a spitting cobra.
Oh.
Yeah, a spitting cobra. It was beautiful, and it's, it doesn't spit, but it sprayed a whole lot. It goes for the eyes.
It's not necrotoxic.
It goes for the eyes. If you don't wash them out right away with water or milk, permanent blindness. Like, it's not pretty.
Tell me when you see one.
It's very easy to get distracted by the beautiful landscape, but at all times you got to be aware that these guys could be right next to you and you're just not seeing them.
So we're at this. We're at the first of these tidal things.
Creeks.
So we're going to cross the Ruba River, and then at that point, then we go through the swamps.
Is it all mangrove swamp today? So
Except for the last,
this is going to be a muddy.
Except for the last mile. So I figure we got four-ish miles.
Pascal, this is Hassan. He's a fisherman. He was just trying to explain us that this kind of water, where we're going to cross Ruvu, is very dangerous for crocodiles. So
There are lots of crocodiles at the Ruvu, and we need to cross this river during the nesting season of all times when crocs are at their most aggressive.
All right, guys, you ready? Let's go. Twin down. Water's hot, huh, guys?
I think it was a couple days after Stanley left Bagamoyo where, I mean, initially he's enthralled with Africa. He's like a kid in a candy shop. It doesn't take very long for that to go away, for the harsh realities of Africa to set in. And they set in quickly. And it's the same thing with us.
Whew. This is the Ruvu.
The Ruvu.
That's a Ruvu.
How many crocodiles does the Ruvu have?
Hundreds.
All right, let's get up here and get the river crossing done. Wow, that's a lot bigger than I thought it was. I don't know, for some reason I didn't think it was this big. This river's too deep to cross, right?
Yes.
It's too big a river? Well, let's get up here. Let's try to get a canoe, huh?
Right.
Is there a boat up here? He wants to talk about
no,
crossing.
just explain to him about it, and he's willing to
help us with the canoes.
Yes.
You know, crocs are a really big problem here for the villagers. Villagers need the water near where they live for washing and cleaning and to drink. And oftentimes they go down to the river's edge and get eaten by a croc.
This is quite good crocodile country, isn't it? They like it with this murky water.
Everybody listen up for a second. We're gonna load the canoes one person at a time. Who amongst you can swim? Raise your hand. Not very many. Don't stand up in the canoe, okay? We don't want you to tip over the canoe.
You ready, guys? Ready? Okay, 20.
There's two dangers here. One is that there are crocodiles, and second is that there's a real risk of drowning, partly because these canoes are just dugout canoes, not very stable, and secondly, the porters largely can't swim.
Careful!
Yeah. Okay, faster. Come on, faster. Okay, faster. Okay, whoa.
Well done, then.
I'm impressed. Okay, guys. Duende, huh?
Oh, here we go.
Is it mud?
Yeah, I would say that.
Like this side. Trekking through mud, the worst mud you can imagine, up to our knees. It's 110 degrees. We have packs that weigh way too much, and we're trying to go perfectly straight just on a compass needle. Let me make some steps. You guys try to follow me in my steps, all right? I'm gonna kick steps in the mud. And I'm doing everything I can to keep this course straight, because otherwise, at the other end of that trek, I will never find what we're gonna find.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah.
I'm not sure they're gonna be able to make that.
Yeah, this stuff just sucks you down. If you're carrying 20 kilos on your back, you're going to sink really deep.
Guys, come down this way, okay?
Yeah.
This is the thickest, deepest of something yet. I got your load. Oh. Whew. That was no fun.
Yeah.
Cool, man.
Okay,
Take
you
us
guys
through,
ready?
fearful leader.
Pasquale, we agree we pull everyone forward?
No, hold on a second. Let's go to dry grass.
This habitat, mangrove swamp, is just about the worst possible environment for a camp. But part of the reason for that is this is totally uninhabitable because this is a flooded area.
I'm glad when we get out of this muck for good.
And soon the tide is going to be rising and water's going to start creeping in. And it's not a place you can escape quickly. So if we're caught here, it's just a question of climbing trees and waiting till the tide goes down again.
This is the turn, Julius. It's right here's the turn, huh?
It's better, huh? Yeah. It's good to get out of that sucking mud. We've got to keep the pace up.
I'm liking this.
Yeah, this is nice.
Here, give me this map. I'd like to get up into here.
Long one, huh?
You see, if we veer it this way.
Problem is that we're going to take 5 hours to get there.
Oh, Lord, really?
Well, this is the deal.
Well, no, that's exactly it.
Exactly.
Isn't it?
No, exactly it. My vote is start looking for camp at 1 hour and go no further than 2 hours.
When we find something this nice,
yeah,
you think in
fine.
an hour?
But you guys, there's no indication that there's anything like this, which we know will work anywhere up there. We've found this great camp. There's a river right next to us. There's places that we can set up shelter. We're under trees. This is the place where we need to camp, and Pasquale just wants to keep going. We're still not going to reach where we want to go, so why don't we just take advantage of the fact that we can set up camp early? You have to know how to lead, and you have to know when to follow. That's my big thing. And you know, right now, this is not the situation to follow. We need to camp here, despite what Pasquale wants to do. So I vote we stay here for a lot of reasons.
If you feel strongly, that's fine. We'll camp here and get up properly tomorrow and leave, as Stanley did at 6 in the morning, and none of this 10 o'clock rubbish.
I think
tomorrow.
the fellows will be happy about this.
Yeah.
All right, is there any
All right,
problem
good
with snake issues or anything like
No,
that?
these are just old termite mounds is all these are.
This is
fine.
It's a good,
Yeah, no,
good camping site.
termite mounds are fine.
All right, I'm going to get my guys tarping out.
that over there.
You can eat those.
I've knocked one over.
I didn't think they were termites, but I guess they are termites. You
Should we
just
give-
eat that?
Will
Yeah.
they come up?
Really?
Yeah, have a nibble. At first sight, it seems absolutely ridiculous camping where there are termites and ants and so on. But the great thing about termites is that they don't like water any more than we do.
That's a big
Hey, can you
tarp,
pull the other
Brad.
end of that?
That's a big tarp.
Yeah, it's nice.
And it means that although we're so close to a tidal river, we stand a very good chance of not being flooded ourselves.
What I generally do then is I generally come to camp, I lay down, and I'd lay down my thing and start reading a book, because I have worked in my journal the whole trip. You know what I mean?
I was thinking the same thing. I really wanted to keep a very detailed journal.
Like Stanley, I'm a war correspondent, and probably the most important aspect of my job is to be a bridge for other people to see other cultures. And like Stanley, I'm keeping a journal on this journey, but unlike Stanley, I'm videotaping them. We're day 2 into this journey so far, and today I have to say was a tough one. We had to cross the actual river, which was filled with crocodiles. It's kind of interesting. Stanley had his own experience with a crocodile, where he went down to the banks of the river, and just as he was about to go for a swim, a crocodile lunged out and snapped at him, and his reactions were fast enough. He was able to pull out and not get bit. We're not doing it exactly like he did it, but we're doing it close enough that we relive some of that history.
Water's pending, guys.
We're critical with water.
So I figure we got about 20 liters of carried water besides what's on us.
And we went through 80, or maybe
80, probably close to 80 yesterday.
Well, that's a pretty dire situation.
Fantastic. Is everyone drinking, you know, pacing themselves, drinking a little bit at a time so that we don't run through the water very quickly?
Yeah, I've been explaining them this morning.
But are they doing it? Have they been doing it though? Yeah.
No, we didn't have a breakfast. It was water, but
Yeah.
they tried their best.
Where do we think the next definite water is?
Don't know.
If there isn't water, then we totally dehydrate.
This is the first time that I've been scared this entire expedition. Water is a huge issue. You have to keep drinking or you could die. I mean, you could end up dead from dehydration.
You know, let's really put out today, and let's push to right here.
Yeah.
And if we reach right here, we could probably get water there tonight. See, this is the deal.
It's the thing.
Here,
we walked
Yeah,
2 days
water
without
is the thing.
food.
here it is. So we've still got to walk on this track. We've still got to walk another quarter mile. And then we need to turn 220, and we can go to the southwest.
So how are we going to estimate that distance without any?
I'm going to step it
We'll
off.
pace.
Yeah, we'll pace it off. 1,750 steps per mile. My steps per mile.
What the SAS do is that everyone does it silently to themselves.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
then you all compare at the end
Yeah.
of the day.
Yeah.
So
Well, she doesn't know exactly what her
Hunter
step
Casey
is. She doesn't know exactly what I know exactly what my step is. My step.
Well, ask Maria. Maybe Maria.
I know
doesn't
exactly
make
what
these
my
assumptions.
step is. You know what your step is?
Yeah, I do actually.
Okay.
But
What's your
But
step?
I'm not sure why you would assume that. It's
Okay.
just a bizarre
Yeah.
comment. You know, I know exactly and you won't, so I'll just do it.
My apologies, Maria.
Pasquale seems to be treating me like I'm this little girl out here who doesn't have any experience, who can't possibly handle the simplest of tasks, and it's getting so annoying. It's like when you make a comment that flat out, you know, I'll just do it because you obviously haven't done it. I just wish you'd asked me because I do have experience doing that.
All right.
I could grab that compass from him and lead us to where we're going, but it's about respect. You know, I don't want him to see me as a girl out here. I want him to see me as an explorer.
Okay, guys.
Here we go.
Why don't we just go round?
Can we do that?
Yeah. Why don't we stick to the riverbank? Because that's where the line is anyway. Isn't that just a waste of energy?
Are we cutting back that way?
I have a route. I have a map with a route on it.
Yeah, I know you have, but we also know that we have a shore navigational aid in the river.
60. Could you do me a big favor?
Yeah.
If I tell you 100, could you just keep track of them?
Pasquale?
Yeah.
How are we doing on the bearing?
Good. We're perfect on the bearing, dude.
How can you take a bearing in this?
Well, I got a compass bearing. I just keep on the compass bearing where I can't see ahead of me.
Yeah, but...
Let's stay in the tufts, eh?
To be absolutely honest, I'm a bit frustrated because we're going through very, very tiring back mangrove swamps. I don't think it's necessary. We've got a very clear navigational aid, which is the river. We don't want to follow every meander of it, but it's looking like much better, drier going along the riverbank. So, can I make a suggestion? We tack back to the river?
Well, let's carry this tack a little bit further. I think it's...
Okay.
And then we'll...
These are just the back swamps.
Yep.
Can I make a suggestion that we head south to the river?
Yeah, good suggestion.
What do you think?
Yeah, it is a good suggestion, but I think if we go ahead and head this way, we'll catch these next two drainages, and then hopefully it'll start clearing up a little more. Okay?
You know what I mean, though? This is like a back swamp.
You know, the hardest thing about leading an expedition is biting your tongue, because everybody thinks they know how to lead an expedition. It's like going grocery shopping.
Are you counting steps?
Yep. Okay, this way.
And it's really so much more complicated than that. It's so much more difficult, especially when you're in an inhospitable land like Africa, where anything and everything can go wrong.
It's impenetrable. Yeah, hold on. It's unpenetrable here.
Can I suggest we tack just 10 meters that way?
Hold on. Let me just look, huh?
Yeah, I think round to the right, just around there, just to make a little bit of headway. We're just going to have to zigzag, you know?
Yeah, we are. We're zigzagging plenty, dude.
I know, but we've got to be pragmatic about it and just bend with the vegetation. Just not bad.
The same.
No, just here.
So just come on with me. Just come on behind me.
Why?
And then it's going to open up over here a little way.
Completely open right here.
Pasquale?
It's going to open up
I think
here.
we just have to go with the flow.
You know, there might be one through here, too. Right here.
I'm through here.
You're through?
Hold on. There's a trail here, too.
Okay, I'm through.
Yep. Is it completely open?
Yeah.
All right, hold on a second. Go that way, then. I'm not sure how long it goes this way.
The problem with Pasquale is that he's like a loose cannon out here, and loose cannons make dangerous decisions. You can't just blunder your way through Africa and think you're going to be okay.
I'd say we should try to keep on our bearing. Otherwise, I'm losing track now.
Right, that's what I'm worried about.
If I'm starting to lose track, we can get high ground, so we can make up better time. And then I can at least start to get back on trail and find out where we're at. Because right now, we don't know. We're all of a sudden,
Should I signal
with 12 different directions, now I'm lost.
Yeah,
I'm not lost, but we're going to be lost. So let's do this.
Yeah, that scares me if you say we're lost.
We're not lost, but what I'm saying is that with people 12 different directions, let me go ahead and keep my wits about me without 27 people trying to...
No, you're not hearing what I'm saying.
I just can't believe how much time and energy is spent on getting lost, on arguing with one another, on just trying to make the simplest of decisions.
The only thing I'm asking, and this is the one thing I wanted an agreement on, are you going to take me an hour away from the water source? You know, that's the only thing I'm asking.
No. Look, the original plan was I wanted to touch that river. That was my original plan to get that water source. Now, why would I change that? Guys, let me guys tell you guys something. Navigating by committing democracy is getting really hard.
It's a question of being inclusive.
I agree it's inclusive, but I look and say, this is the way we're going, we have these options, but navigating by democracy is getting tough.
And we all agreed that we weren't going to let what happened on the first day, that we don't get more than an hour away from the water source, so at least we can get water.
Can we do
can we at least agree on that?
Compromise, which would be leave everyone here. Why don't one of us go ahead with one Maasai and just very quickly go out there. The Maasai will help us get back.
Ahead. Guys, one of the Maasai come with me.
So
okay, enough. That's good. I'll go with one of the Maasai, and then I'll call ahead. We'll call ahead.
And one of the other of us.
Come on with me. And then, of course, everybody starts talking. Everybody's got their opinion of which way we should go, how we should do it. And here we are early on, and already this thing's starting to fray. And it's a dangerous situation because we are well into the swamp. There's no turning back out of the swamp. So we either find out how we're going to get across this thing, make the right decisions, or we sleep in the swamp.
Pasquale?
Come on through.
Go through?
Yeah, go through.
Now, I'm not saying, we've got to find a solution to this, but we can't travel without water. I mean, we did that before and then just shut us down completely.
There's different rays of light coming from different directions, and I think that we're going to find openings.
You think it's good?
Yeah, I do.
It just looks like it's open over there, doesn't it?
Yeah, you know what? There's good trail up here.
Good job.
We've just found a spot. I went up ahead over here, and it looks like the trail is actually quite good relative to everything else. So I think it's time that we get the guys together. So is it okay if we send one of the Maasai back?
Here we are. Maasai returns. Yeah, good. Any luck?
Yeah, 20.
Whee.
Yeah.
So what's it like up there? Is it open?
Yeah, it's open. Little bit. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe you can go to youth better.
Yeah.
Maasai usually not get lost. It is not easy for me to get lost in the bush. I know how to find a way. I know even trees that this is tree maybe I have seen somewhere or this, so not easy for me to get lost. Maybe I can get lost in the town, not in the bush.
Oh, God.
Yeah, no, this was the right decision. This will get the porters through easily. Yeah. It'll make the journey easier. We got to reassure Kevin that we're not going to run out of water. We're going to be all right. But we can't have the river on the leash, and we have to. I mean, that's what makes us more than tourists, and right? We're explorers. There's no choice. Are we going to head back? Yeah. Might as well head back to Zanzibar then. There's lots of water there. I'm agreeing with Pasquale because I actually think he's right. Everybody takes a jab at him every once in a while, but the fact is, I think that his decision to leave everybody behind and go up ahead and try and find a better path is better than returning to the safety of the river. I kind of wish he was like this all the time because then I could agree with him more. But, yeah, I like this, Pasquale.
All right, everybody ready? 20.
It's beautiful out here. Nice to be out of that mud.
Quickly.
Open space.
Finally, huh?
We struggle out of these swamps at last. Africa, right out there, reaching beyond the horizon to the west, and realize that we've only covered 9 miles. We've got 940 to go. How are we going to cope? How are we going to manage with so many porters, so much luggage?
and so little ability so far to show that we can make it really as a team.